Tough Mudder X, Sheryl Crow, and Keith Allen on today's episode.
This is the world's toughest podcast. Welcome to the world's toughest podcast, where we talk about any obstacle course race you'd like, as long as that's world's toughest mudder. Each week we talk to members of the WTM community and share stories of success and failure in the single greatest event in OCR. My name is Will Hicks, and this is the world's toughest podcast.
We are counting down the days to Toughest Mudder Whistler. It will be held on June 17th at Whistler Olympic Park in Whistler, British Columbia in the Dominion of Canada. I will be there, and I will be happy just to last the full 8 hours, let alone conquer the course. I really think Whistler is going to be the hardest of the 6 toughest courses. I will have only run 4 of them. I missed London and I missed Philadelphia. But after all 6 are over, we'll talk to the people. So we'll sit down with the people who've run all 6 and get them to rank them from hardest to easiest, see what they think of them. Remind me in like 6 weeks. Make sure we do that. This is not our Whistler preview episode. That'll be coming up soon. But let me tell you 2 things about Whistler right now. There will probably be snow. Allison Ty, the only person, male or female, to podium 3 times at Toughest Mudder this year, she lives in BC near the course. She told me off mic that I should expect snow and that I should invest in some neoprene socks. She recommends poking a hole in them so that the mud and water can escape as you're running. The second thing is Whistler is going to have crazy hills. Probably not insane hills like Toughest Mudder Los Angeles. I talked to Eli and Nolan a couple weeks ago. You can hear that on episode 22, last week's episode. They told me that there's going to be hills, but nothing's going to match those toughest LA hills. So we'll see. I think the hills plus the cold and snow could make Whistler harder than LA. We'll see. So this episode is a little later than usual. You want to know why? My wife and I went to a concert last night. We saw Sheryl Crow, and I can already hear what you're saying. Ha ha ha, only ladies like Sheryl Crow. And you're right, but you know who else likes Sheryl Crow? The ladies. I'm reaching out to Miss Crow's people to see if she'd like to run a Tough Mudder and then talk about it afterwards. We'll discuss the obstacles, and then she can talk about her new CD, Be Myself, available at fine retailers everywhere. So definitely hold your breath and plan on that happening. You can find out more about my Sheryl Crow concert experience on my new podcast, World's Toughest Pop Folk Singers of the 90s. Also, I want to thank Kelly Montegale for babysitting for me last night. Kelly ran Tough Mudder with me once or twice back when we were first starting in 2011 or 2012. She recently did her first half marathon, and she did well. She did great. So good job, Kelly. Thank you so much. We're going to talk to Keith Allen in a few minutes. Keith is a staple of the World's Toughest Mudder community. Here's something you might not know about Keith Allen. He's kind of funny. Matt B. Davis on the ORM Podcast has been going into his archives lately for his episodes, and I did the same. Here's something that Matty Gregg said about Keith Allen way back in episode 002 of the World's Toughest Podcast.
Actually, Keith Allen is probably one of the funniest people I've ever met in my life.
That's actually a really good episode, 002. If you're all caught up on the current episodes of this podcast and you want something new, you haven't heard that one yet, you should go check it out. Episode 002, Matty Gregg. So Keith Allen, he wrote the How Much Tough song that was going around the community a few months ago, as well as writing an outstanding article for Obstacle Racing Media this week. I got the feeling Matt B. Davis asked Keith to write about Toughest Philly, and then Keith said, yeah, okay, Matt B. Davis, but instead of writing about the race, I'm going to write about how I feel inside. And Matt said, okay, fine, and he published it. It's really good. You should check that out. You can find a link to it on the World's Toughest Podcast Facebook page, facebook.com/World's Toughest Pod. And it's a good thing that you can go there to get a direct link to it, because you cannot find that article using ORM's search function. So Matt B. Davis, you need to fix that on your website, man. I can't find anything for nothing using search there. I just said I can't find anything for nothing. The other big thing Keith has going on in his life is directly related to friends of the show, Piss and Cox.
Josh and I were thinking, realized, wait a minute. We don't have any ambassadors. We should have some ambassadors.
So what we decided to do was we decided to make an ambassador team. There's only one member.
We could think of one. We could think of one only.
They reacted pretty much exactly as we anticipated.
The one and only Keith Allen.
Wow, guys. Thank you. I'm so proud. I didn't have to even apply to be an ambassador for you guys. I guess at this point I have to start watching the show. I'd like to thank my sponsors, my parents, for letting me stay in their basement while I get my shit sorted out.
I promise you that's just the start. The whole video is about 17 minutes long. You can find it at facebook.com/World's Toughest Pod because you can't find it anywhere else. Before we talk to Keith Allen, though, I want to talk about the big Tough Mudder news this week. Tough Mudder announced the launch of Tough Mudder X.
Introducing the toughest 1 mile race on the planet. 1 mile, 10 epic obstacles, 10 killer workout zones. Tough Mudder is looking for the absolute best to step up to the challenge. With $25,000 on the line for the top female and top male in a winner-take-all showdown. Tough Mudder X. Do you have what it takes?
Tough Mudder X is their newest race product. It's a 1 mile long competitive event with 10 Tough Mudder obstacles and 10 functional fitness stations. Tough Mudder X is the newest competitive event Tough Mudder has rolled out this year, along with Tougher Mudder and Toughest Mudder. It might seem like a long time ago, but 6 months ago, you had 3 options if you wanted to run Tough Mudder. You had Tough Mudder Half, the Tough Mudder or Tough Mudder Full, or World's Toughest Mudder. And Tough Mudder Half is still new. Tough Mudder Half, it launched in April of 2016. In 2015 and before that, you had 2 options. You had Tough Mudder and you had World's Toughest Mudder. And that was all you got to choose from, and you liked it. And you would run it, and you would say, "Thank you, sir, may I have another?" So let me break down all of the official Tough Mudder events for you, because there's a ton of them now. We'll start with the non-competitive first, and then we'll go to the competitive. Okay, so this doesn't technically count, but the first non-competitive event is the Mini Mudder. This is for your kids. You cannot run it. It's about a mile long. Me watching my son do it was as fun as anything else I've done in Tough Mudder. If you have kids, you should sign them up. It's great. They have a miniature Everest. The kids run up, and then the bigger kids get up to the top, and they're reaching down, helping the little kids get up. It's great. If you have a child, you should do that next time you get a chance. So it doesn't officially count, but I wanted to plug it. So the non-competitive Tough Mudder events. Tough Mudder 5K, brand new this year. The first Tough Mudder 5K is in Nashville on August 12th. The second one will be in Shanghai, China on October 14th. I expect the 5K to be a big focus, if not the focus, of next year, 2018. It's 3.1 miles, 10 obstacles long. Tough Mudder Half, 5 miles, no electricity or ice water, 13 obstacles, including Block Ness Monster, Pyramid Scheme, and Everest 2.0. Tough Mudder, or as it's sometimes called now, the Tough Mudder Full. 10 to 12 miles, 20 plus obstacles, the original Tough Mudder. You know what this one is. Those are the non-competitive Tough Mudder events. They are not a race, but a challenge. These are the competitive Tough Mudder events. These are races. Tough Mudder X, 1 mile long. We're going to talk about this one in a minute. Tougher Mudder, 10 to 12 miles long, held on a slightly modified Tough Mudder course. It's the first wave on Saturday morning at most Tough Mudder events. Toughest Mudder, an 8-hour-long race held on a 5-mile looped course. Do as many laps as you can in the 8 hours. 6 races held worldwide in 2017. World's Toughest Mudder, 24 hours long on a 5-mile loop course. Do as many laps as you can in 24 hours. Held once per year. This year, as in the past few years, held in Las Vegas, Nevada in November. So from 2 events 18 months ago to 7 events today, this has definitely been the busiest stretch of time for Tough Mudder since they began. So what is Tough Mudder X? I want to talk about the who, what, why, etc. of Tough Mudder X, but a little bit out of order. Let's start with the what. This is a 1-mile course with 10 obstacles and 10 functional fitness stations. A mile is only 5,280 feet. So you're going to have an obstacle and a functional fitness station about every 500 feet. The 10 obstacles are Berlin Walls, Kiss of Mud, Balls to the Wall, Birth Canal, Skidmarked, Funky Monkey, Everest, Kong, Leap of Faith, Stage 5 Clinger. One thing that'll be different at Tough Mudder X versus every other Tough Mudder event, competitive or non-competitive, is the helping of your fellow competitors. At World's Toughest Mudder 2016, I was coming up to Everest, and I saw Jon Albon and Ryan Atkins run up Everest. Then they turned around and helped up 2 random guys behind them. They were in the middle of chasing 100 miles for a $100,000 cash bonus prize. And they still made time to stop after they finished an event or finished an obstacle, turn around and help the guy behind them. That is not going to happen at Tough Mudder X. This is a sprint. These guys are going to be flying, hauling, and there is not going to be stopping to help your fellow mudder complete the course. At the elite level, each of these 10 obstacles is easily completed by yourself, except for Everest. If you look at the graphic that Tough Mudder released, it specifically says Everest. It doesn't say Everest 2.0. So my thought was, maybe they'll go back to the 1.0 version that you can complete by yourself, fairly easily. But reading through other stuff on the Tough Mudder website, it is Everest 2.0. So what I would expect is that they'll put ropes down like they do for Tougher Mudder. If you can complete the Everest 2.0 by yourself, it will be much faster to just run up and do Everest 2.0 by yourself than running up to the Everest 2.0, grabbing the rope and kind of pulling yourself up and over. I would imagine that whoever wins the race is not going to use the ropes on Everest. So those 10 obstacles, I'm going to read them again. Berlin Walls, Kiss of Mud, Balls to the Wall, Birth Canal, Skidmarked, Funky Monkey, Everest, Kong, Leap of Faith, and Stage 5 Clinger. Those are all common obstacles you'll see at every single Tough Mudder you go out to anywhere this year, except for one. You might remember back to episode 002, as we were talking about, Matty Gregg talking about his least favorite obstacle ever.
Eventually they'll probably go somewhere else, but they're going to have to replace the cliff with something. Maybe not a big jump, but something, impressive.
Yeah, hopefully it's not Leap of Faith from 2013. I hope to never see that obstacle ever again.
I wasn't at 2013. Leap of Faith.
Oh, okay. Oh, Leap of Faith. Yeah. So it was Leap of Faith was basically it was like walk the plank.
Okay. Except
they physically put planks out at the end of the walk the plank, and you had to jump out about 8 feet onto a cargo net. Now the cargo net had padding on the top of it. But every single time you hit that cargo net, it felt like you were running into a brick wall.
Huh.
And it was the most unpleasant experience of all time. Like, I remember, like, I've been in car accidents, and I still remember the impact of Leap of Faith more than I remember the impact of the car. And it's not because I got knocked out in the car. I just remember that impact as something that was like my calves would cramp up, or I'd hit my head, or it was just, it was an awful. I hope Brady never gets that idea ever again. I hope he forgot about it.
Yeah, we probably better not talk about it too much.
So what did we do? We talked about it some more.
And it's funny because Leap of Faith, just going back to that story in 2013, Deanna Blake passed me late at night at 2 a.m. And she did exactly what I did, which is I'm not jumping across to that cargo net. Screw that. She just jumped right in the water and then took the half-mile penalty.
Oh, wow.
It was a half mile. And, you know, I didn't even bat an eyelash. I was just like, I am not feeling that impact anymore. I did it for, 6 laps and said, forget it.
So those are the obstacles. Along with each obstacle will be a functional fitness zone. When you hear functional fitness, if you think CrossFit exercises, then you'd be right. Here are the 10 functional fitness exercises: box jumps, sled drag, wall balls, farmer's carry, sandbag burpees, pull-ups, hurdles, rope climb, sandbag thrusters, Atlas lift. Let's talk about the how. They're taking about 200 athletes on an invitation-only basis. You can't just sign up for this. You can apply, and if they accept you, you can compete. But for this first one at least, you cannot just pay your money and show up with your driver's license. Let me read you what they said, and then let me tell you how I think it's going to break down. 2 categories of competition, men and women. 2 rounds, qualifier and championship heat. Each qualifier heat will consist of 12 athletes. Each athlete will run 1 qualifier heat. A last chance qualifier heat will be run for the top 12 men and women who did not qualify for the championships. Top 12 fastest men and women in the qualifier heats will advance to the championship heat. The fastest man and woman in the championship heat will win a grand prize of $25,000. CBS Sports will be filming the on-site action and televising 2 hours of programming on CBS in fall 2017. I have lots to talk about with the TV stuff in a few minutes. So 100 men and 100 women in heats of 12 athletes. Here's the thing. It's not going to be 100 men. It'll either be 96 men or 108 men, because 100 will not divide by 12. I wouldn't be surprised if they end up going with 120 men and 120 women for a couple of reasons. The 120 divides by 12 cleaner. The 120 men plus the 120 women equals 240 athletes. And 24 always looks sexy when it's Tough Mudder related. And 120 athletes means 10 heats with 10 winners. So if they do that, that means they'll only need to fill 2 more slots with the last chance qualifier heat. So they've said 100, and I'm sure it's the plan right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if the plan gets tweaked between now and July 14th. So they said 100. Let's say that means 108 men and 108 women. That's 9 heats with 9 winners. But those 9 winners may or may not automatically advance to the championship heat. The wording that Tough Mudder used could be interpreted 2 different ways. The 12 fastest men and women in the qualifier heats will advance to the championship level. So they may just look at everyone's time across those, 108 racers and pick the top 12 and advance them to the championship heat, regardless of whether or not they won their qualifier heat. They may also, and I think this is more likely, take the 9 winners of the 9 heats and advance them because they were, quote, fastest in their heat, and then take the next 12 fastest times across those 9 heats, put those 12 in the last chance corral, and then the top 3 winners from the last chance qualifier heat will advance into the championship heat. If they take 120 people, and if the winners automatically advance, then the top 2 from the last chance corral would advance. If they take 96, and if the winners automatically advance, then the top 4 would advance from the last chance qualifier heat. Top 4 out of 12 advancing seems like way too many to me, so I don't think 96 will be where they go. I really think they're going to start with 108 or 120 when it's all said and done. And that's if they keep to heats of 12. Now, they could change it to heats of 10 between now and July, and everything I just said will go out the window. But if they stick to heats of 12, that's how I think it's going to shake out. Win. I don't know who's going to win the race, but I know who's not going to win. And I'll tell you who after I read the schedule of events for Tough Mudder X. This is on Friday, July 14th. 8 o'clock to 8:30, athlete check-in. 8:30 to 9, athlete briefing. 9 to 10 a.m., course walkthrough. 10 to 11:30, open course practice. 12 to 4 p.m., qualifier heats. 4 to 4:30, last chance qualifier. 4:30 to 6, a break. 6 o'clock men's final, 6:30 women's final, 7 o'clock awards ceremony. I don't know who's going to win, but I know who's not going to win, and that's anyone who qualifies for the championship heat through the last chance qualifier heat. The championship heat will be the third time they've run the course in as little as 2.5 hours, depending on when their qualifier heat was scheduled earlier in the day. So congratulations on qualifying for the championship heat, but those other guys are going to be way more rested than you. This also speaks to the advantage of racing earlier in the day. If they ask you, you want to race in the earliest heat possible. If you win your heat, racing early could be the difference between getting about 6 hours of rest for the championship heat and 2 hours of rest. Why? Why Tough Mudder X? Nolan Campbell and Chris Maltby from Team HQ were on the ORM podcast this week, and they talked about Tough Mudder X. Nolan said they have a real simple goal for Tough Mudder X, to find the toughest competitors out there. Chris expounded on that, saying that the Tough Mudder competitive series as it is right now, Tougher, Toughest, World's Toughest, is all targeted toward the endurance athlete. How far can they go? How long can they go? And Tough Mudder X is a whole different ballgame from that. It's very possible that whoever wins, these are my words now, not theirs. It's very possible that whoever wins the first Tough Mudder X is someone who would not do well at World's Toughest Mudder. Now, it's also possible that Ryan Atkins or Hunter McIntyre just walk away with the thing, but it's not a lock by any stretch. If Tough Mudder and CrossFit got together and had a competitive little baby, this is what it would look like. Where is Tough Mudder X? It's being held in Minnesota at a hunting preserve at the same location as Tough Mudder Twin Cities. The regular Tough Mudder runs on Saturday and Sunday. Tough Mudder X will run all day on Friday, the day before. The hunting preserve is called Wild Wings of Oneka. Wild Wings of Oneka. Someone from Minnesota can tell me how to pronounce that. Apologies to the residents of Oneka. There are 3 ways you can participate. As an athlete, as a spectator, or as a judge. I'll talk about the athletes last. Spectators, the whole thing is going to be filmed for CBS. This is the definition of a made-for-TV event. And something that's going to be interesting is to see what happens next year if Tough Mudder expands this out, and if they put this at Tough Mudder event weekends, if there's like an extra, pay $20 and you and your buddy can race each other on the 1 mile course, or if this stays just like a super, super elite only made for TV event each year. Tough Mudder wants and needs spectators for this. You can get a free ticket to spectate on the Tough Mudder X page at toughmudder.com. There's also a direct link there on our Facebook page, facebook.com/World's Toughest Pod. If you don't want to spectate, you can be a judge. If you have some experience in this kind of thing, they need you as a judge. You'll get a free Tough Mudder admission, which is easily worth $150. I'd be real careful about trying to resell that, though. That's its own deal entirely. We're not going to talk about that right now. You can find a link to sign up to be a judge at facebook.com/World's Toughest Pod. While you're there on our Facebook page, you should like the page. I'm sure that does something. Okay, athletes. Tough Mudder has already invited some athletes to participate. They said they're inviting the top names in OCR, functional fitness competitions, ultra running, and even a few Harlem Globetrotters. They have not made an official announcement about who's coming and who's not coming. But here's who I am expecting to go and expecting not to go. And again, this is totally unofficial and is just my speculation. Athletes I am expecting to run Tough Mudder X. Ryan Atkins. Ryan is a 4-time winner of World's Toughest Mudder and has already won 2 Toughest Mudders this year. Lindsay Webster. Lindsay has won 2 Toughest Mudders this year and trains regularly with her husband, Ryan Atkins. Hunter McIntyre. Hunter McIntyre won World's Toughest Mudder in 2014 in the team division. He's also the reigning champion of Steve Austin's Broken Skull Challenge, a reality TV competition show that has an OCR component to it. Sarah Knight. At World's Toughest Mudder 2015, Sarah Knight finished second to Amelia Boone. She's run all 4 Toughest Mudders so far this year, finishing second at 2 of them. Jim Campbell. Jim Campbell is one of a handful of people to participate in every single World's Toughest Mudder so far. He's also the only person to earn his 100X headband. Ryan Woods. Ryan Woods is an accomplished Spartan racer. He finished in 7th place at Toughest LA and 2nd place at Toughest Mudder Atlanta. Jin-Young Pak. Jin-Young Pak is the first ever winner of World's Toughest Mudder. He's also the first ever repeat winner, winning in both 2011 and 2012. Here are athletes I do not expect to see at Tough Mudder X. Trevor Psychos. Trevor is the reigning men's World's Toughest Mudder champion. He also won Toughest Mudder Philly a few weeks ago. Kris Mendoza. Kris Mendoza completed 100 miles at World's Toughest Mudder last year. He's one of only 7 men to ever accomplish that. Ben Greenfield. Ben is a member of the Spartan Pro Team. He got 50 miles at World's Toughest Mudder 2015 and is currently the co-host of the Obstacle Dominator podcast with Hunter McIntyre and Rose Wetzel. Evan Preparis. Evan is a pro team member with Conquer the Gauntlet. He completed 90 miles at World's Toughest Mudder 2016 and is the author of Strength and Speed's Guide to Elite Obstacle Course Racing. He also has an OCR podcast. It's called Strength and Speed. It's okay. You can listen to it too. Athletes, I'm not sure whether or not they're coming. Stephanie Bishop. Stephanie's the women's World's Toughest Mudder reigning champion. Jordan McDougall. Jordan is an ultra runner. He finished 2nd at Toughest Mudder Philly with 40 miles. Amy Pagic. Amy Magic Pagic finished in 3rd place at World's Toughest 2013. She's also become a regular fixture on American Ninja Warrior. Austin Azar. Austin finished in 2nd place at World's Toughest 2016 with 100 miles. You'll remember him and Trevor Psychos sharing a fist bump as they jockeyed for position, competing with each other for the win. Allison Ty. Allison Ty is a friend of the show. She finished in 2nd place at World's Toughest 2014 to Amelia Boone. She finished in 1st place at Toughest Mudder Philly. Benny Gifford and Laura Mesner. Benny and Laura are both Spartan athletes who appeared on the TV show Spartan Ultimate Team Challenge. Their team won 1st place in the inaugural season last year. So that's who I expect to come, who I expect not to come, and some athletes I'm not sure about. Anyone not on that list, I don't know one way or the other, or I don't have a guess one way or the other if they're coming or not. Of those maybes, I would bet dollars to donuts that most of those maybes turn into people that are coming to the event. But I couldn't tell you for sure which ones are yeses, which ones will turn into nos. If the athlete you're wondering about isn't already on one of my 3 lists there, then I'm wondering too. I don't know. This is just my speculation. Anything could happen between now and July 14th. So what do you think about Tough Mudder X? Let me know. World's Toughest Podcast at gmail.com or shoot me a tweet on Twitter at @TheWillHicks. Enough about Tough Mudder X. We'll talk about Tough Mudder X more when it comes in the middle of July. Let's talk about television and CBS. CBS and Tough Mudder announced that all of the Tough Mudder programming previously scheduled to run on CBS Sports will instead premiere on the broadcast CBS network. That's the main mothership. That's the same CBS that your mom can watch with that antenna. 60 Minutes and Big Bang Theory, CBS. NCIS, CBS. CSI, CBS. Channel 2 in LA, CBS. Reruns of the Tough Mudder programming will run on CBS Sports afterward. This is a huge deal. Millions more people will see the races because they're on CBS versus being on CBS Sports. I'm into this stuff, and I don't even know what channel CBS Sports is. If I didn't have a TiVo like doing it automatically for me, finding the shows for me, I can find CBS. CBS Sports is hard to find. So this is a huge deal. This is great that it's happening. CBS was reportedly very happy with how the World's Toughest programming went last year, and they're apparently very happy with the Toughest Mudder footage they've got so far this year. This is great, great news for the exposure of Tough Mudder. Let me tell you the dates to record. These times are Eastern. Be sure to check your DVRs beforehand and add like a minute or two before and a minute or two after. Saturday, July 22nd, 4 p.m., Toughest Mudder West, Los Angeles, California. Sunday, July 30th, 1 p.m., Toughest Mudder South, Atlanta, Georgia. Saturday, August 19th, 2 p.m., Toughest Mudder Northeast, Philadelphia, PA. Sunday, August 27th, 1 p.m., Tough Mudder X Preliminary Rounds. Sunday, September 3rd, 4 p.m., Tough Mudder X Finals. Saturday, October 28th, 2 p.m., Toughest Mudder Midwest, Chicago, Illinois. Saturday, December 23rd, 12 p.m., World's Toughest Mudder, Lake Las Vegas, Nevada. A couple things to note. Toughest Whistler and Toughest Europe are not on the schedule. It looks like the 2 hours of Tough Mudder X on August 27th and September 3rd might have bumped them off. If that's the case, it's a shame. I was looking forward to seeing the British version of Toughest Mudder and hearing all their accents. And Toughest Mudder Whistler is going to be insane. Snow and ski hills. Allison Ty versus Lindsay Webster versus Sarah Knight rematch. Ryan Atkins back in the saddle. He finished 4th place last week at a big Spartan race on NBC. Whistler is going to be amazing. I'm very disappointed that the Whistler race won't be on CBS. Something else to note, every Toughest Mudder is an 8-hour race and will be condensed down to 1 hour for TV. World's Toughest Mudder is a 24-hour race and will be condensed down to 1 hour for TV. Each heat of Tough Mudder X will be 20-ish minutes, and that's being stretched to 2 hours. Now, there are 2 heats, but still, that's, as far as race time per screen time, Tough Mudder X is getting far, far more than any of the other races. There's been a lot of talk online about how much better Tough Mudder X will be for TV because it's so much easier to film. Everything will be, within 1 mile. And the course actually zigzags back on itself. It's not like one long straight line. It's like kind of like an L. So that's probably true. I'm sure it will be much easier to film. But at this point, I'd rather see more World's Toughest Mudder coverage than Tough Mudder X. But it's all right. Time will tell. I'm just a guy in the World's Toughest Podcast recording studio, not the World's Toughest TV show. So what do I know? Also, no Road to World's Toughest Mudder this year, and no World's Toughest Mudder after show on the schedule. That's disappointing as well, but those can still be added to the schedule, especially the after show. If ratings are strong for the first 3 or 4 televised races, the first Toughest Mudder and maybe even Tough Mudder X, I would expect them to bring back the recap after show. Even if it's just on CBS Sports again, I think that'll end up being put back into the mix before it's all said and done. Before we talk to Keith Allen, let's read some iTunes reviews. World's Toughest Review, 5 stars, by Youngworth. M. Stefano Running Podcast led me here. This show is informative, entertaining, and dead-on hilarious. Can't wait to participate in my first World's Toughest Mudder this upcoming November. This podcast makes the training process worthwhile. Thank you, Youngsworth. I sincerely appreciate those kind words. I don't know if we're dead-on hilarious, though. My son thinks I'm funny. My jokes destroy him. But thank you either way. Super informative, 5 stars, by Stephen Grey Toast Geppert. Having never previously done any type of Tough Mudder event, this podcast was my only real source of info on what to expect at the Toughest Mudder South. It turned out to be one of my best races ever, and I owe a lot of that to World's Toughest Podcast for helping me feel so prepared going into it. Unfortunately, I recently cracked my fibula, so I'm super bummed I won't be able to make it to my first World's Toughest Mudder this fall. However, I plan to keep listening to World's Toughest Podcast to keep me motivated and stay informed about what's going on in the world of Tough Mudder, as I hopefully follow the road to recovery all the way to World's Toughest Mudder 2018. Keep up the great work with the podcast. Stephen, those are kind words. I really appreciate that. And congratulations on Toughest Mudder South. Stephen completed 35 miles in Atlanta and beat out 55 other guys to win his age group. Well done, Stephen. And you can still come to World's Toughest Mudder. You don't have to run it. You can work pit. You can volunteer. Don't let one little old broken bone stop you. If you'd like to leave a review like Youngworth and Grey Toast, you should. You can do it on your iPhone right now. Open the purple podcast app and click search in the bottom right corner. Search for Tough Mudder. We're the first podcast that pops up. Click the World's Toughest Podcast logo and then click reviews and then click write a review. Then you can write whatever you'd like to about the show and I will read it. Probably. Test me. See if I'll read it. See what happens. All right, let's go to the phones. Let's talk to Keith Allen.
St. Cox Ambassador, how can I help you?
That was at the bottom of my list of questions to ask, and you led with it.
Oh, well, I mean, it is pretty much the most important thing going right now. So, yeah, you don't bury the lead, bro.
Keith Allen.
Matt Davis taught me that.
Will you guys still be friends after you talk to me?
I think every time I mention it, he tells me that I'm dead to him, and then he calls me 20 times a day, and we talk about nothing.
I got the same every morning call, like every morning for like a week and a half until I called him back. So,
yeah, dude, you're putting his feet to the fire. You're putting the pressure on him. Good work. He's got to step up his game. With no competition in town, you get lazy.
I mean, he's got like 17 other OCR podcasts to think about, but
right. But I mean, like, those aren't any good. Have you listened to some of those fucking podcasts? They all interview the same people, man, over and over again.
Much like ORM and I interview you.
Yeah, but I'm funny. I don't know. I don't also tell the same story. I mean, we talk about different things. By the way, I'm not referring to anyone that's been on your podcast. But there's like, if you start a podcast, though, it's like, we started a podcast. All right, who are we going to interview? And it's like, you got to go down the list of like who people would care about. I mean, it's natural, but it's funny because like there's a bunch of podcasts that all have the same people. Right. And you probably get the same story. I haven't listened to all of them, though, because I'm like, I already know the story.
For a while, I was listening to probably 6 or 7 of them, like every single episode of those 6 or 7. But once I started doing my own, it's like you can't do that anymore.
No, because it's funny. So I'm sure you were going to bring up rap stuff at some point. But yeah. So like I have moments when I go back and listen to old CDs that I listened to, like when I was 15 or 16, whatever, and I'll hear a random line in like a Helter Skelter record. I totally accidentally used that rhyme, and I didn't even notice it until, I don't know, since I haven't listened to this record in 10 years. And I'm like, I used those 2 words, and I probably did it because I listened to Helter Skelter 15 years ago or something like that. So
stand-up comics do the same thing sometimes on accident. They like borrow jokes they don't even realize.
The podcast thing is weird because it's new. And it's like the podcast game is really, Tony Kornheiser's left radios doing podcasts. I miss Tony. And now I'm going back. But I keep finding all the episodes that I already heard because he was still on the radio and then just turning it into a podcast.
Right.
And now he's just doing the podcast. So
you listen to Jim Rome?
I don't. I actually don't listen to podcasts, and Matt always guilts me into the fact that I don't even listen to them. So now the reason, though, was my old work truck didn't have an auxiliary port or a tape deck or anything. So I literally would listen to the regular radio, AM radio, sports radio all the time, or like crazy R&B stations.
Right.
So I didn't listen to podcasts, and I'm not going to like listen to it on my phone in the car. So now that I actually don't work for that company anymore and have like my own car and I have unlimited data with my new company, I started listening to some podcasts. So I've listened to ORM, and I listened to Mr. Tony. That's all I've listened to.
You ever find our little show in your rotation?
Actually, no. I think I listened to your first Melissa Dugan one, and I listened to the Mendoza one.
Okay.
And I listened to a Jay Bode. Is it Bode or Bode?
Bode. You were kind of a co-star in the Mendoza episode.
Christopher Mendoza is a really nice guy, and that might be why that he got 0 airtime.
Yeah, it's so funny. Me and Mendoza, he's in love with me, and I can't say I blame him. No, I bring out the worst in him. He'll always say, he always, I hate that guy. No, I really love him, but I allow him to be mean because he is really a nice guy.
Yeah.
But he's mean to me. He's like Westworld.
And you're the host?
Well, I guess I'm more like Anthony Hopkins. I'm allowing Mendoza to be who he really is. You know what I mean? His whole life, he's just so nice, and like all of his dental patients love him. Oh, that Mendoza, he's so gentle around the gums. They get their teeth cleaned, and you need to see an orthodontist before it gets too bad. You don't want to lose all your teeth, and everyone loves him. And then he starts rap battling. Actually, it's funny. I got a message from him once, and this was after he was a 100-miler. And what's your phone number? I'm like, oh, Christopher Mendoza? This dude's got a fucking orange jacket. He wants my phone number. So I sent him my phone number, and I think he asked me for Matty's phone number too. So I sent him Matty's phone number because I figured, well, Mendoza's a nice guy. It's not like I'm giving it to some crazy girl that just wants free socks. So then me and Matty get like a audio battle message from Mendoza. I'm like, oh shit, Kris can rhyme.
Keith Ballin thinks he's tough, but I am tougher. My orange jacket's so fly, according to his mother.
So that's kind of what started the whole Keith, Matty, Mendoza thing. We were actually supposed to work together. And I was like, all right, guys, write your stuff. And then we'll actually do like a real recorded version of this. So it was never supposed to be a battle. That was what was so funny about it all. Like, so like when Mendoza came out with his, I didn't know I was about to be put on blast. So it was kind of like how Cannabis didn't know that LL Cool J was going to start with him after he did his verse, because LL Cool J was offended by the, hey, yo, L, let me borrow that mic on your arm line. And then that's when Cannabis just lit his ass up on that battle track. But yeah, and then Matty, of course, had to do it. And
Mendoza and Keith Allen is the Grail. What's up, man? All I see is 2 guys, 1 cup. Oh!
I personally am partial to Matty's being the funniest in that whole sequence, because his girlfriend was really funny in the video.
Matty had a funny line about
the 2 girls, 1 cup was
2 guys. Yeah, 2 guys, 1 talking about the Grail. 2 guys, 1 cup.
Yeah, that was.
Although you were trying to make a diss record for Kris, and it ended up being like a theme song almost.
Christopher Mendoza is a really nice guy, and that might be why that he got 0 airtime. While Tough Mudder was on CBS, and then he decided it was time to see me next, yo. 100 miles make you an orange jacket star, but if you wanna flex with me, you'll have to see these bars, kid. Now for anybody questioning my rhymes, I'll spit a little taste so we can leave that shit behind. Mendoza. Please train with Wesley, Kerr some more so you can go from 3rd to 4th. Mendoza.
Yeah, it feels weird being me and Matty have a lot of history with stupid stuff, and we have like more. Like I know what I can get away with Matty, somewhat. Like I've called him our older battles. Like I've called him on the phone, like, hey, so I've got this really mean line about you. Like, I don't want you to be offended. Just it's all in good fun. And he's like, oh no, we're good, man. I'm like, all right, cool. Like my favorite line was he had DNF'd his 100-miler, and Matty's a really good runner, but we're getting old, so actually it's a terrible excuse. A lot of ultra runners are good. Whatever, we're brittle bastards. So I had a mean line about how his nickname at 100s is Matty DNF. So I felt really bad about it. Was really a good line, but I felt bad because these things are. We all go out and we push ourselves and we try to do these things, and it's like if you don't hit your goal, you feel bad, and it's not like waking up to a rap record dissing you about not hitting your goal is maybe it hurts your feelings. It might hurt my feelings. I don't know. So I called him first.
Do you have a background in music?
Man. Yeah, so I played guitar and sang backup vocals in a band for like 4 or 5 years. We toured with Alien Ant Farm and 311. We were never the headlining act, but I rapped. I did a lot of I recorded my own rap music in high school, and I'd record people from school, and we put out albums. I think we were platinum in high school, which meant we sold 100 copies of our records in high school. Actually have a pretty funny, like when people talk about white privilege, and this is sort of deep for a World's Toughest Podcast, but when people talk about white privilege, one of my favorite white privilege stories pertains to my rapping in high school. So I live in a pretty diverse neighborhood. So I would when we would sell the records, I'd walk around playing music on my boombox and selling the CDs, and the teachers would never mess with me. We had a couple of gentlemen on the record from town that were not white that definitely didn't get that courtesy when they were trying to sell the records. So it was always just interesting for me. This was like 1998, 1999. So like, the whitest guy in school, that's always me, could pretty much get away with whatever he wanted. And the same other dudes that were on the record couldn't. It was always just so ridiculous that was the case. And that was, what is it, 2017, 18 years ago. Wow, dude, I'm getting old. But yeah, so it's just interesting how when you look back and you think, everything was cool. But, even back then when you're a kid, shit like that was happening. So, yeah, man, white privilege, rap music, mint chocolate chip ice cream.
Hang on. So when you were, one last thing, you were touring with Alien Ant Farm and who?
311. So those are different tours, but 311 was like the biggest tour we were ever on. We opened for Modest Yahoo and 311.
What was your band name?
Wow. The Rivalry.
Are you guys on iTunes?
We were on iTunes, but you had to, and we're not on iTunes anymore. It was, you have to pay to keep being on it. So we don't do that. We still have a pure volume site up, which I always find funny. I don't think the music actually works from it though. I'm not sure. And our MySpace still exists.
Do you want to plug your MySpace?
2 days ago. Yeah, I went on it, and then because someone had mentioned my hair from when I was in the band. Actually, Cassie, we were at brunch after the event. I guess on Sunday we had brunch, and she was like, "Oh yeah, your hair when you were in the band." And I was like, I don't know where she would have seen these pictures because my name is. If you Google Keith Allen, you have to be very specific to get me to show up because Keith Allen is a famous British comedian, the father of Lily Allen, and there's a radio personality named Keith Allen. So there's a lot of Keith Allens that are far more internet famous than I. And by internet famous, I write for ORM sometimes. And I'm the Piss and Cox ambassador, ex Tough Mudder ambassador.
Ex Tough Mudder ambassador?
Oh yeah.
You quit?
I didn't apply for season 2 of, I'm like, what's that chick from Jersey Shore, Angelina, that didn't go back? Although she might not have been invited back. What?
I couldn't tell you.
You watched Jersey Shore?
I did not, no.
Dude, how could you have a podcast and never watch Jersey Shore?
I don't watch much reality show like Jersey Shore or Survivor or Spartan Ultimate Team Challenge.
Although I've heard that the new one should be different this year. I did not really like the Spartan Ultimate Team Challenge.
It's supposed to be better.
You may have heard on an episode of the Obstacle Racing Media Podcast with Matthew B. Davis.
You guys broke down like all the TV on I should know what episode it is. You guys broke down like all the TV shows that were going on at the time.
Yeah, we that was one of our little things that we did because he'd call me at like 7:00 in the morning and we'd talk about it.
You ran Toughest Mudder Philly. What did you think of the course?
I did. I loved and hated the course. Loved as in early on I loved it, and then hated as in later on I was like, fuck. I really liked it. The obstacles it was a good mix of obstacles. I hated Arctic Enema, which, I guess is the point. It was my first toughest, will be my only toughest this year. And overall, the event went really smooth. The course was cool. Hang time was cool. They spaced the bars out further on Funky Monkey, which I guess is cool. It was a little bit harder, a little bit further of a reach.
Wait, the Monkey bar is going up? The ascending bars?
No, the actual wheels. So not the wheel in the middle. So the third wheel was further away from the second wheel. It's a further reach than it was in Vegas, for sure.
That's already a hard one to get.
So you had to extend your arm a little bit further. I saw Rulo had mentioned that, and I hadn't experienced it, and he definitely was correct. So a little bit. So when you're swinging on that one, you have to definitely have a little bit longer of a grip on that second wheel to the third wheel. And then, of course, so the course, the obstacles are the obstacles. At this point, they didn't do anything. There wasn't anything like brand new other than hang time. But they put Arctic Enema literally 500 feet before Funky Monkey. So you're literally still recovering from dunking under the water and getting the water off of you, and you come up to Funky Monkey. So
and your hands
it was a little bit of an evil twist. Yeah, your hands are wet, and it got cold in the middle of the night. So it was an interesting dynamic with Arctic Enema. I've never done a World's Toughest where Arctic Enema existed. I mean, they had it last year, but that was sort of a farce. I don't think anyone took the penalty at the walls last year at World's Toughest. I didn't see anyone get in that Arctic Enema.
Yeah,
so I know before my time, you had it as a penalty for failing Everest, I think, in Jersey when it was also really cold. And I believe it was just on the course at some point, but I know they use it for penalties. And it was a penalty for balls to the walls or the wall thing, whatever they called it last year. But again, I didn't see anybody going it.
The gambler. We had to roll the dice to pick your wall.
Yeah. There you go. The gambler. Yeah, so...
Did they make you go over both the easy and the hard version of Stage 5 Clinger?
No, they actually Stage 5 Clinger, I don't know if you've seen any of the chatter today, but interestingly enough, Stage 5 Clinger had a little bit of drama at it. And the drama, not real drama like at the event so much, but the volunteer, literally as you'd approach the obstacle, at least on the second go-around, was announcing that it was a one try, and if you failed, you had to take the penalty. One attempt obstacle. And no help, not letting people help, holding feet or anything like that. So it was very interesting. And actually it seemed higher to me than Stage 5 Clinger at Vegas, and people were falling off. And there's no hay bales or anything under it.
Mm-hmm. So
it was a little bit odd. And considering at Skidmarked, that's the inverted walls, right? Skidmarked?
Yeah.
So at Skidmarked, it was the complete opposite. The volunteer was ordering you to help people. You need to help her up now. You, get her. You hold her leg. And this dude was, no mother left behind. This motherfucker was all night. You'd pull up. He was like, you are 2 steps closer to that 50 miles, right? And everyone's laughing because Atkins ain't here. So yeah, ain't nobody getting 50, baby, or Albon, I guess. Or Chad. And then the next time you approach, you are 2 steps closer to getting that free entry. I'm like, is that true? And he's like, yes, if you hit 50 miles, you get a free entry to World's Toughest. I'm like, shit, I guess Ryan's going to World's Toughest for free. And then he said something else the next time, but every time I approached, he had a different way of telling you were getting closer to 50 miles.
$5,000.
Yeah, exactly. If you did this 51st before anyone else, you're going to have 10 grand. Motherfucker. No. Is this a curseless podcast or no?
Generally. My mom listens, so.
All right, sorry. Maybe you should put on some headphones, Mom Hicks, and listen to some Phineas and Ferb.
She will not get that reference.
Ding. That's number 2 or 3. I don't know.
How many miles did you get in Philly?
I got 25. So it was my goal. I didn't really have a real goal. So everyone kept asking me. I don't not believe in goals, but I don't believe in goals when it comes to these events because you just don't know what is happening. You don't know how do you have a goal? How do you set your pace on a course that you don't know what it's going to be? When you're not sure if there's a second sprint lap, how do you allot your time in your head? I don't know. I just you can pace all that shit out, but when you don't know what your elevation is going to be, I don't know, you can't run I just don't. People get super into the breaking down of that stuff. Like, I'll do that in my head once I'm actually doing the event and I can get like a baseline for what the course is.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I try not to like put that shit out there because there's just too much. There's, compares this, compares that. You just set an expectation that maybe is just completely unrealistic. So I'm about realistic goals. So I also have been very busy and very preoccupied with real life, with moving, getting a new job, selling my house. So I've had a lot going on. So I've been really like focusing on real shit. As fun as Tough Mudder is, when you do have real stuff happen, it is always good to take care of that. So I've been doing a lot of that.
There were 17 obstacles on the 5 mile loop. Did it feel like a mini World's Toughest?
I guess so. I haven't run any of the other ones, so I have no baseline for like what the other ones were. So like my general understanding is that this one, and I guess UK, had the most obstacles. Because a few of the early like reviews of LA from some folks were like, walking over a mound of dirt's not a fucking obstacle, or walking up this hill is not a fucking obstacle, assholes. I'm sorry, Mama Hicks. So, like, I just have no baseline for what's a lot. So it just seemed also like the races that I've been doing lately, like Savage Race has a lot of obstacles. Over 5 miles, they have probably 25 obstacles. So it didn't seem like overkill to me. It didn't seem like a lot of obstacles, over 5 miles, I guess. But I mean, I'm glad it had obstacles. There was definitely some stretches, because the first lap was a sprint lap. So I did 0 obstacles. So I guess there's a little bit like when I was planning out in my head what I was going to end up hitting, I was like, if these were less obstacles, this would be a little easier. But, but as far as like the course goes, it didn't feel overloaded. I will be honest with you though, like my last 2 years of doing Tough Mudder, I kind of feel like they're super light on the obstacles on the regular courses over 10 miles. So this felt more like OG to me. So it was a good thing.
What was the terrain
Keep
like?
doing that, Tough Mudder. If you're listening, more obstacles.
What was the terrain like?
The terrain was, it was rolling hills, so it was actually a pretty good description. Nothing crazy, but like, you'd hit a couple uphills and go down. If you've done Virginia, it was sort of like Kill a Gorilla, I think is what they called it, where they literally would like do like switchbacks on them. They didn't do switchbacks, but it was just kind of like, there was nothing too crazy, but there was a couple of long slogs. They actually used there was a funky monkey penalty. That people were saying the hill was really bad. So I think that was like the biggest hill as far as the penalties went. But hill wise, it was most of it was runnable. There was a few points. I'd say there was like 2 or 3 spots on the course that I remember thinking, okay, I'm going to walk this. One of them, because it was a very sideways, like little incline. So you're going on an incline, but it's also sort of, a little askew, a little view askew.
Left to right.
To the side.
Sure.
Yeah. So that, and it was very grassy and wet. So there was a little bit of slippage on some of the grass at some point. So it was definitely a very wet course. Throughout the night, everything kept getting wetter and wetter too. So as far as terrain goes, a lot of long grass. I mean, my freaking clothes, and like I'm cleaning like blades of grass out of my washing machine, and I sprayed my stuff down. So it was very muddy. I haven't done a really muddy event in a while. Like Worlds isn't that muddy, and the regular events typically like you have mud mile, but you're getting cleaned off. Sort of they had right before Kong was Pitfall. And right before that was, I think it was Birth Canal, and before that was another mud one. I don't remember. Is it Quagmire? Is that also a mud pit?
Yep.
So basically, as you were closing out, Mud Mile was just nasty. It was like milkshake, and it was super deep. Just for everybody that listens to this and is going to go nuts about how ATL had the toughest mud mile on Earth, that's probably true. I didn't do it, so I'm not comparing the two. But as far as the mud mile went, it was pretty deep. A lot of help was needed. and it was like soupy hell, like a thick, nasty mud. So you'd get that cleaned off. I think maybe Augustus Gloop. We got rid of Block Ness Monster. So you would finally get rid of all that mud when you got to Block Ness, which was nice because it was just that thick, nasty mud. Your shoes,
right? My
shoes were caked with mud. I was constantly trying to step on my own shoe to get that muddy grass that gets stuck in like that pad, if you know what I'm saying, where you get the like almost like a bottom pad of mud and grass. So I was constantly stepping on that to get that off. Then at the end, you would go Quagmire, Crybaby, Pitfall, Kong. So you're back in the pit with muddy shoes. So they weren't doing you any favors there. It's actually part of the reason I actually did not wear a wetsuit in Philly. And part of the reason was I didn't feel like taking my shoes off and dealing with putting other layers on.
You didn't wear a wetsuit at all?
No. I started, my boy Pat was trying to convince me to wear my frog skins to start. And I put the pants on and I was like overheating just standing around. It was a little bit deceivingly warm in the pit tent, and then I'd go outside, but I just felt too warm. I wasn't running. I hadn't done anything. I'm like, if I'm overheating now, it's going to be killer. So I went out with my Athletics 8 / Marina Sport / Dr. Red tights, Marina Sport tights. And those, and I wore just an Under Armour Cold Gear top with my bib on top. And that's what I went in. So first lap, I actually got kind of hot, and I rolled my shirt up, the sleeves up, and I rolled the top up above my nipples and was running like sort of like, what do you call that? Is that a crop top or is it 3/4 shirt?
Sure.
I was like very 80s, I was like the rockers, like Marty Jannetty, running around in my crop top. So, and then I pulled it down for lap 2 when we finally got to the water. And I guess lap 3, I added a windbreaker and gloves. And that was it for the rest of the night. There was a couple of moments where I regretted it, but 2 things were going through my head. Very short-sighted of me, but I shit you not, I was like, all right, I've got a bag that can fit all this clothes in one bag, and then I don't have to do wetsuit wash because I have all my cleaner in Virginia, and I live in New York. I'm like, all right, let me stay with this wetsuit so I don't have to do more laundry. And I really, that was kind of my motivating factor for not changing. I'm like, I've got 2 laps left. I'm going to stick it through so I don't have to do getting the wetsuit's a pain in the ass to clean. So that was my motivation. And I didn't like taking my shoes off because I had so much mud in them. It was going to be awful to put them back on. So yeah, no wetsuit needed.
How are the Berlin walls or the Hero walls?
There were no Berlin walls. They had Skidmarked and Balls to the Walls were the walls.
Really?
Yeah. Actually, I thought that was interesting. Yeah, that was. I thought Skidmarked when I first approached it. I was like, those walls look weird. And then I was like, oh yeah, it's the inverted walls. And then yeah, they didn't have regular Berlin walls. So those were easy.
They didn't have the ones with the. They didn't have the ones like where it's kind of coming out toward you, like they.
Oh yeah, what was that? Yeah, no, they didn't have that. You're totally right. I forgot even about that. That's what they like make the shelf, and you have to almost do kind of like a mini Stage 5 clinger.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, they didn't have that. I forgot about that. What do they call that?
They were calling it Hero Walls, but I think they're calling it T-boned now.
Okay. Yeah, no, that would have been a pain in the ass.
What do you think about the whole Tough Mudder competitive series? Tougher, toughest, world's toughest?
I think it's confusing. I think I told Matthew B. Davis, who runs the Obstacle Racing Media podcast, about this. But the whole the chorus idea for the tougher, toughest, world's toughest was kind of my wife's idea. She made a joke. She was like, I showed her. She thought I was kidding when I told her about all the names. She's like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "No, I'm serious. They did this." And I'm like, "No, really, it's true." And she's like, "Jesus, like tougher." She's like, "It's like how much wood could a woodchuck chuck?" I'm like, "Yes." And that's how that chorus started. Was my wife mentioning how you should do a rap where it's like, how much this, like to a woodchuck chuck. So it was kind of Kelly's idea, and then from there, the rest happened. What ends up happening is I'll get an idea, and then I disappear in the basement for like an hour and a half making noise, and then you get a video.
Have you run a tougher mutter yet?
No, and I'm not going to. It's not. I have nothing against it per se. I think it's a good idea. I guess you had asked me what I think about it. So I think the tougher is a good idea. I just honestly, I don't understand. They have such an ability to like market the thing, and they just don't do it. Like they've got, like, I don't know what the hell they're doing with Ryan and Hunter. Like they're all over their live feeds. They've got the best athletes, like kind of representing for them. Yet like nobody knows what the hell is going on. It's like, okay, you have Hunter on your live feed. You have Ryan on your, like I know Hunter ran one and won it, right?
Yeah, in LA.
Like obviously Ryan's dominating toughest. But it's just, I don't know. Like, I just think they have like the resources, these amazing athletes that are running their events now, where it used to be like all the elites Spartan. And it's what, the middle of the year now? What's going on? Like, how come Ryan hasn't run a tougher? Maybe Ryan doesn't want to run a tougher, and that's cool. But like, ask him to run a tougher. Like, hey Ryan, can you come run a tougher? It'd be really cool.
He told Matt.
You win all the toughest.
He told Matt B. Davis of the Obstacle Racing Media Podcast that he was going to run one up in Canada somewhere, just kind of chill, laid back.
Oh yeah,
near his
you're
house.
Right. I did hear that one. That particular podcast. I think he was talking about his kind of amazing Canada run. That was his favorite thing to talk about. I do remember that. He'd mentioned that though.
So, are you going to be at World's Toughest this year?
I believe I'll be there. I do believe that I'll be pitting if I come though. I'm going to pit for my boy Garfield Griffiths is my plan for this year.
Instead of running?
Yeah, I've been kind of juggling it in my head. So a few things, like every year I've hated the second half of the event. The first year I did it and I was sort of like emotional about my kids. So for year one, it was like, I'm going to prove this so I can be strong for my kids, or some shit like that, like in my own head, like that I was doing this for somebody else, and realistically, like it's all, it's all like, if you're going to find yourself or whatever you want to attach to all of it, like it's about you, and that's cool. It's okay to have things be about you, and it's okay to have things be about you, because if you're going to like raise kids and if you're going to do this and you're going to do that, then you have to like, either believe in something or stand for something or want people to try and convince them to try to do things. And it's kind of like, okay, well, if I'm going to tell my kid in 10 years to push through, I don't think I'd use Tough Mudder as my example of pushing through, but maybe you would, but I don't know. You just want to kind of like, if you want to learn what you're about and see what you can push through, it's a pretty cool experience. Now, for me personally, and this is not an overarching theme for everyone that does the events, I've kind of gotten sick of that. So like, I like the event, but like at hour, I don't know, 10, 8, I'm kind of like, why am I doing this again? Didn't I already decide that I could push through? And like, you go through that mental battle of whether or not you want to continue or why the fuck am I doing this? And it hasn't gotten the best of me yet. I've continued going and I've improved each year. And I hit 60 last year and I was kind of like, okay. So like for me to go 65, 70, I need to spend a lot more time running. Like that's the next step. So for me, like I don't really have that kind of time. And I'm not trying to make an excuse, but I just really don't. I put enough, the amount of time I'm already putting in is a lot. That's not to say that I don't put in time, but I just don't have like that kind of ability to run much more than I do. My kids are getting older and they, it's not like I can't take them stroller running anymore, which is what I used to do. Yeah, throw them in the stroller, take a run for 2 hours. That shit worked. Now they're like, 10 minutes in, no, let me walk. I want to run too. And you're like, yeah, but that's like a 20-minute mile, bud. So yeah, I'm just hitting a different stage of my life where I've got to like make other things more important. And like, I'm not like yearning for that feeling at the end of World Toughest anymore at this moment. And that could change next year. It could change, in 2 years. But for me, like, I don't know. I like having fun with my wife at the events now. So, and she doesn't like running that long. So for me, like, my favorite event last year was OCR World Championships. And the reason for that, it had a very similar, cool vibe. Like, the atmosphere is really cool. And it was at, like, a super cool resort, like a ski resort in Canada. And we had a hotel, like, legit quarter mile from the venue. So we literally woke up, walked to the venue, ran. You know, I'm going to go back to the room for a little bit. Hang out, take like a 20-minute nap, go hang out with people, watch. The coolest thing I've seen in the last year and a half was the Hunter Ryan sprint course battle, which, dude, awesome. Like, watching that live was super cool. And then, you know, racing, we had raced the short course earlier that morning. We were already done. And then the rest of the day, like, you were hanging out with all the people without being like, I'm going to die driving home because I'm so tired because I was up for 30 hours. So I just, you know, I kind of want to experience the event in a different way. And my buddy Garfield's doing his first World's Toughest Mudder, and I like helping people. I feel like I've got a good amount of knowledge on some of the stuff. So I just kind of want to, like, do that. Like, my other friend Joshua Grant, who's done, I think, maybe 4 World's Toughest, he pitted last year for PAC, and he had a great time doing it. And it's just a different experience. So I just kind of want to, what does that guy say? It's like a catchphrase. Do you know what it is? When it's something about doing something for the first time.
When's the last time? That one?
Is that it? I don't think so.
That's how it starts.
When was the first time you did something for the last time? Is that right?
You're so close. So
I'm close.
Did you think the 8 hour was a good length for you? Like, because you mentioned like after 8, 10, 12 hours you're done, or you're, you know, mentally.
I was actually done at 4 hours. I was like, fuck, really? 4 more hours? Yeah, I was like, 4 hours. I was like, man, I can't believe there's 4 more hours of this. So I had, it was a pretty tough course. It was, I feel pretty beat up today, to be honest with you.
You mentioned you got 50 miles your first year at World's Toughest.
Yes.
What's the secret to getting 50 your first time out?
The secret to getting 50 your first time out is, because you're going to inevitably overtrain, is overtraining less than you're overtraining. Year one was so ridiculous. I got super sucked into, like, competitive running and hitting crazy high mileage that I mean, me saying I feel pretty beat up today, I was actually thinking about this on my long ride home. I'm feeling beat up today, right? But, like, I felt this beat up after, like, a month of running leading up to my first World's Toughest, because I just had very little clue of what the fuck I was doing in terms of running. Oh, my biggest mileage month was 40? Let me run 120. You know, and I do shit like that, and my knees were not happy, and I got through it. So for me, the key to 50 is just not stopping and, like, following all the cliche advice of don't pit too long, or make sure that you can always cool down, but you can't ever warm up again. Just stuff like that. Like, I was overdressed year one, and I was sweating really bad. Like in 2014, the Vegas course was wet on the back half. So at night, you had that hill that we came down last year, you were going up to begin. And there was like 2 big hills in the beginning in 2014. So when I first put on my Vortex 5, 2.5, 1.5 suit or whatever it is, I literally thought I was going to die of overheating. This was pre-sandstorm. So I was so fucking hot, dude. And I was so slow, and it wasn't because my legs hurt or anything. It was because I was overheating. And finally I got to the water, all the swimming. And I was like, okay. And then the windstorm happened, and that sort of everything evened out. But you'd rather be too hot rather than be freezing, because that's when people really quit. And last year, we didn't have like a defining thing. As far as the defining thing was that it wasn't that cold. So like it just, there was like, I thought the water was really cold in 2015. Like, we joked that they put ice in the real water, you know, and then obviously 2014 we had a sandstorm where people were, you know, dropping out because of that. And last year was, I would say, the most enjoyable of the courses. I did put on a wetsuit eventually, but dude, it took me hours to put on a wetsuit last year. Like, And that's, mentally, that's just how I knew that, it was warm. Like when I think back, I'm like, yeah, dude, I see pictures of me like in the middle of the night and I'm in a short sleeve shirt. Like, okay, I guess it wasn't that cold. You think back and, was it hard? Yeah, for sure. But like cold is the hardest part. And that reminded me this weekend, like the cold, like it'll mess with your head when you get chilly. And it was only like 49, right? That's not that cold, right? When you talk about, I never did the December one or the November in Jersey. So I don't have that as like a baseline. Mm-hmm. But 46 is pretty cold when you're going in ice baths and water and stuff.
In and out.
I mean, yeah.
You got 50 miles in 2014, and then 2015 you got 55, and last year you got 60. What's the what's the secret to increasing every year?
So my big thing, I ran less. Personally, I ran less in 2015 than I did in 2014. I ran a lot in 2014, and I had overtraining injuries because of it, which was a good thing in like the long run because it like taught me to chill out or maybe like talk to somebody that maybe knows what they're doing. This is not a shameless plug, but I started doing Yancey Camp in 2015, and that helped me out a lot because it just really put me with someone who knows what they're doing and kind of like structuring something a little bit more structured than me Googling a marathon plan or Googling whatever. And I also focused a lot more on obstacle stuff. Like I really like, my favorite part of Tough Mudder or any of these races is obstacles. So like running has always been like the necessary evil. As far as obstacle failure goes, like I failed Monkey 0 times in 2015. I failed it twice last year, I think. So like I didn't fail a lot of obstacles the last 2 years. Not Ryan Atkins, Jon Albon style, but like like regular guy style. Mm-hmm. But following Yancey Camp just put me more like on an actual regimented thing, where and just knowing, like listening to your body sort of thing. I tell my kids that when they're learning to pee and poop in toilets. So like I try to follow that advice for myself. And last year I did Yancey Camp also, and that was really it. Just kind of listening to somebody else and like taking the pressure off of trying to figure out your own workout plan, or listening to there's a million people that'll tell you what to do, right? But you just kind of like be consistent with who you listen to. So if you're going to listen to one person and they like know what they're talking about, listen to that one person. Follow that training plan. If you try to do too many things at once, that's not like smart. So if you want to do CrossFit and you think that's going to do it, then focus on that. I don't think that's the best route, but it could be for you. The thing I like about Yancey is he mixes running in with like exercises and grip strength related exercises. So it's really geared towards obstacle racing, and it's relatively cheap, relatively inexpensive. So it's not like, if you're not doing them, you barely notice the money that's coming out. It's not killing you at like $100 a month or something like that.
Should they go to yanceycamp.com/Keith Allen? I am just someone who likes Yancey Camp, and I actually really like Yancey. So no, there is no affiliate. There is no affiliate deal with Keith Allen. He just likes the program. I remember seeing Yancey out on the course in 2015. He passed me at like Loch Ness Monster, I think. I was like, Yancey Camp.
And he was probably super happy and super like thankful to just have people talk to him, because he was like he's one of those dudes that you're like, all right, is this guy really that nice? Really this cool? And then you're like, all right, he is, okay. All right, yeah, all right. And then you're like, all right, he's really cool. And then he does a lot of, I don't know if you're friends with him on Facebook, but he does like a lot of live stuff, and he's very good at it. He's very natural. I've told him he's a natural salesman. I'm in sales. So to some, that may be a mean thing to say, but for me, it's a compliment. So like, he just is very good at talking, and he really does talk about what he believes in, but he's actually very inspirational. I actually asked him, I was like, have you ever been a minister? Because he did a live video the other day, and like, it was just super inspirational. And I'm not one for like getting inspired by Facebook live videos, but he got me, bastard. he also did a very good unintentional, he was the narrator for a obstacle racing media World's Toughest video that came out last year. Ding!
I might have missed that one.
Yeah, Jeff put it together with like other people's live videos because they didn't do like a legit video like they did the year prior. So he took a bunch of live feeds together, and like Yancey was, since he didn't race last year, he had a part of his intestines removed. He had cancer. He pitted, but he was on his own live feed, and he was talking so much. And I think he was on the Tough Mudder live feed too. I don't know, but he was on a lot of live feeds, and just him talking about the event and him talking about the racers was so good that Jeff was able to like make a narration of him talking just off the cuff. No, you know what I mean? So that's how good he is when it comes to talking for Facebook Live videos.
Keith, any sponsors or projects you want to talk about, promote?
My parents' basement sponsor. It's where I'm currently living, making the magic happen. And by making the magic happen, I go to work in the morning at my new job, and I drive home on the weekends. So things I like. I like kit bricks, right? They're cool. Buy fucking kit bricks. I don't have a code, but just buy one on Amazon or on their website. I have their City Bricks backpack. I use it for work. I fit in Brooklyn when I'm walking around with it.
I have 3 kit bricks. I love them.
Oh yeah, they're great. It was super easy pitting with them at Toughest. I literally had some help from Gina Estrada.
Mm-hmm.
But I just had like 3 Salomon soft water bottles filled with Tailwind, and I had a thing of strawberries and blueberries, and I had a giant thing of pretzel M&Ms. And I came into the pit, opened up my kit bricks, stuck my hand in, ate some M&Ms, grabbed some strawberries, replaced my Tailwind, and pieced out. So, kit bricks are good. That's really it, dude. I like hyperwear. I like my sandals. You have a hyperwear sandal?
I do not. When I hear hyperwear, I think of those shirts in the 80s that you touch and they changed color.
Oh, look at you. I think when someone says shirts in the 80s, I think of the Bear Whiz shirts of the bear pissing in the beer bottles and all the, you remember those? Bear Whiz? And if you don't, you should Google it.
Yeah, I'm definitely not Googling that.
No, dude, it's like a cartoon bear, and they have
No, I remember it, yeah.
Oh, okay, you do. They actually, somebody makes like you know how you can get like anything made these days, but someone made like a recreation of them where you could buy them, and it's not going to be the same. And the reason I say it is T-shirts today, there is a comeback of decent T-shirts, but like normal T-shirts that you buy online, unless you're getting like, what is it, American Apparel or the equivalent. There's now a bunch of new brands that make soft athletic T-shirts. But like all these shirts on Gildan shirts, like the worst material shirt you could ever own. It fits like a box. You buy a shirt like that and it comes on this awful shirt and you don't even want to wear it anymore. It kind of like Tough Mudder shirts from 2 years ago. when they got rid of the shirts and came back with like the regular cotton shirts.
Right.
But and shirts just fit weird, man. Like a shirt from the 80s, a large fits me like a shirt from today is small. I don't know if you've experienced that. If you've ever delved into eBay T-shirts that are old.
It's hard to find a good No Fear T-shirt these days.
Yeah, dude. That's a line from Cannabis song. No fear like the shirts white boys be wearing.
Keith Allen, any last thoughts on Toughest Mudder Philly?
Not really. I've got to write a review for ObstacleRacingRadio.com. So I have to try to think of some stuff that I haven't already tell you. Don't tell Matt Davis. I got to write this shit quick before this podcast comes out.
Can we hold it a week?
No, dude. Do whatever you want. Put it out tomorrow. I'll send it to Matt. I'll personally send it to him. You hear that, Davis? You better come at me with a better offer. Will Hicks got my number now. Yeah.
Special thanks to Keith Allen and Matt B. Davis for being mentioned so many times. You're welcome. Hey, leave us a review on iTunes. Shoot me an email at willhicks@gmail.com or connect with us on the World's Toughest Podcast Facebook page. We'll see you next time. Thanks a lot, guys.
How much tough could a tougher mudder tough if a toughest mudder could world's toughest? How much tough could a tougher mudder tough if the toughest mudder could win world's toughest? How much tough could a tougher mudder tough if